Welcome to Reformed Thinking.
So, usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, there is this expectation of precision.
Right. It feels like an engineering problem.
Yeah, like you break your arm, you go to the hospital, and the doctor puts you in front of an X-ray machine.
And that machine prints out an image with a very obvious, jagged white line across your bone.
Yes, the doctor points to the line, you look at the line, and, well, there is an instant objective consensus about reality.
It is completely binary. I mean, the bone is broken.
Right, it is entirely concrete.
We like things to be visible, categorized, and mathematically certain.
Absolutely. The Enlightenment really trained us to view the world through that specific lens.
Yeah, that lens of hard data and observable facts.
But then, you step out of the realm of orthopedics and into something like psychology.
Or philosophy.
Right, or theology. And suddenly, that pristine X-ray machine just shatters.
It does. We start looking at concepts that define human existence, and the landscape gets incredibly murky.
Yeah, we start dealing with ideas that demand more from us than just passive observation.
The parameters completely change.
Right, you are no longer just looking at a bone.
No, you are evaluating the entire framework of how a human being understands reality.
And that feeling of stepping out of the clean, binary world of empirical data and into a demanding reality is the absolute core of our discussion today.
It is the whole point of what we are doing here.
Yes, because today we are doing a deep dive into the source material. We are looking at a stack of incredibly dense linguistic lexicons and theological dictionaries.
And all of this academic material is dedicated to analyzing a single, seemingly simple Greek word.
Just one word. The word is aletheia.
Which, in English, we translate as truth.
Right. And for you listening right now, the mission of this deep dive is to track this specific word.
We are going to follow it from ancient Greek literature through the dirt of the Old Testament.
Yes, into the legal chambers of rabbinic Judaism.
And then across the philosophical landscape of Hellenism.
Straight into the letters of the New Testament.
It is a massive linguistic undertaking.
It really is. I mean, that single sequence of letters carries centuries of shifting theological weight.
It forces us to ask what it actually means for something to be real.
Right. Because in our modern era, truth has been violently split into two extremes.
It really has. On one side, we treat it as a highly subjective emotion.
Yeah, you constantly hear people say, I need to speak my truth.
Or, I am living my truth.
Yes. In that context, truth is just an internal feeling of authenticity.
It is basically whatever you want it to be.
But then on the flip side, we treat it as a cold, sterile set of correct facts.
Like the capital of France is Paris.
Right, or 2 + 2 = 4. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius.
Just raw data points.
But the ancient writers we are analyzing today viewed this concept in a radically different light.
They did. They saw truth as a solid external reality that you could literally lean your entire weight against.
Yes, they understood it as an objective standard that demands your submission.
And eventually, as a living, breathing person.
Which is such a massive leap. So, to comprehend how they arrived at that astonishing conclusion, we should start at the very beginning of the historical record.
Let us look at the literal anatomy of the Greek word itself.
Right, long before the New Testament was even written.
I think that is the best place to start.
So I am looking at the etymology in the lexicons, and the structure of aletheia is fascinating.
It really is.
Can you break down where this word actually comes from?
Sure. So it is a compound word built using a very specific linguistic mechanism.
Okay.
It starts with the prefix a, which in ancient Greek is called an alpha privative.
An alpha privative.
Right. It functions as a negation, meaning not or without.
Oh, okay. So we actually still use this in English today.
We do all the time. Like if someone is typical, they are normal.
But if they're atypical, they are not normal.
Precisely. Or if someone is moral, they have ethics.
But if they're amoral, they lack ethics.
Right. So the first part of the word is just a straightforward negative.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that alpha privative attaches directly to the root verb lanthano.
Lanthano, and what does that mean?
Well, lanthanthon means to escape notice.
Okay.
Or to be concealed, or to remain hidden in the dark.
So if you fuse the alpha privative with that specific verb,
then the literal etymological meaning of aletheia is not concealed.
Wow, not concealed.
Unhidden or unveiled.
The imagery there is really striking.
It is very visual.
It makes me think of sitting in a dark theater. You are staring at a heavy velvet curtain on a stage.
Right.
You know, there's a set behind it, maybe
Right.
actors waiting in the wings.
But it is entirely concealed from you.
Yeah. To the ancient Greek mind, acquiring truth was not about memorizing a textbook of facts.
No, not at all.
It was the physical act of pulling that heavy curtain back,
It was about exposing reality as it actually exists.
stripping away the masks, the shadows, and the illusions.
You haul the curtain open, the lights come up, and the play is right in front of you.
Totally exposed.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize the ancient Greek mindset.
Really?
Yes. When you read classical Greek writers, like Homer or the historian Thucydides, this is how they utilize the word.
So for them, aletheia was obviously the opposite of a deliberate lie.
Sure, but it went much further than that.
How so?
Well, it was the opposite of mere appearance.
Okay.
It was the antithesis of myth or rumor or what they call doxa,
Doxa.
which means what?
It translates to subjective opinion.
Oh, that is interesting. Thucydides is an interesting example here because he was trying to write objective history.
Right, in a world that was completely saturated with mythology.
Yeah, he was writing about the Peloponnesian War, right?
He was, and he despised the way other writers would dress up historical events.
With rumors of gods intervening or exaggerated heroics.
Right. For him, writing history meant getting to the aletheia of the events.
It meant scraping away the cultural myths and the political spin.
And the hearsay, just to reveal the naked state of affairs. So truth was the historical event standing out in the broad daylight.
Totally unconcealed.
Okay, I want to push back on that idea for a second,
Go for it.
because it seems a bit too simple to me.
How do you mean?
Well, if truth is just what is visible or what is unconcealed, does that imply the Greeks thought truth was always obvious?
Like it is just sitting there waiting to be seen.
Yeah, like if I just open my eyes and look at a tree, am I automatically perceiving the absolute truth of reality?
Oh, not at all. That raises a massive philosophical distinction.
Okay, break that down for me.
By the time you get to Greek philosophers like Plato, truth was viewed as something requiring a rigorous search.
An exhausting, painful search.
Yes. Because the physical world, the trees, the rivers, the buildings, it is constantly
The
changing.
things decay.
Seasons shift, metal rusts, people age and die.
Right.
Plato argued that a world so prone to decay could not possibly represent absolute reality.
Because if reality is always rotting away, it isn't stable.
Exactly. So Plato theorized the existence of what he called the plane of truth.
The plane of truth.
Right. This was an intellectual realm where one contemplates authentic, eternal realities.
These are unchanging ideas.
Or forms, as he called them.
So for Plato, finding the aletheia meant realizing that the physical world you see with your eyes is just a shadow.
Just a shadow cast on a wall.
So to find the unconcealed reality, you had to train your mind to move past the physical phenomena.
You have to move past the senses and grasp the eternal, invisible concepts.
So the Greeks are essentially searching for truth up in the clouds of philosophy,
They are trying to pierce through the physical dirt and grime of the world.
just to find these eternal, unchanging ideas hovering in some intellectual stratosphere.
They want to pull the curtain back on the universe.
Right. But while the Greeks were looking up at the sky, the Hebrew mind was looking down,
They were finding truth in the dirt,
in the grit of everyday life,
in the mud of the Middle East.
and in the blood of covenants. The contrast is really staggering.
It is. When we shift from Athens to Jerusalem, we encounter a completely different linguistic universe.
Let's look at that. The Hebrew equivalent of aletheia is the word emet.
Yes, emet.
And the anatomical structure of this word has absolutely nothing to do with unveiling or unconcealing.
Nothing at all. Let's break down the Hebrew root.
Please do.
So, eme derives from the Hebrew root verb aman.
Amen.
This verb means to be firm,
Okay.
to be solid, to be reliable, or to be sure.
Oh, that sounds very familiar.
It should. It is the linguistic ancestor of a word we use constantly today.
The word amen.
Yes. When a congregation says amen at the end of a prayer, they are not saying the curtain has been pulled back
No, they are saying, let it be firm.
or this is reliable.
So while the Greek word is about visibility, the Hebrew word is about testing structural integrity.
It is intensely practical.
It makes me think of building a house.
How so?
Well, you don't care what the floor joists look like.
Right.
You care whether they can hold the weight of your furniture without snapping.
Yes. The Greek wants to see the joists clearly.
But the Hebrew wants to jump up and down on the floor to see if it holds firm.
It is entirely about durability.
So the focus shifts drastically from intellectual visibility to practical validity.
And that shift creates a massive historical collision.
Tell me about that collision.
Well, in the 3rd century BC, a huge translation project began in Alexandria, Egypt,
Right, the Jewish scholars translating the Hebrew Old Testament into common Greek.
so that the Hellenized Jewish population could actually read it.
This translation is known as the Septuagint.
Yes. And our linguistic lexicons point out a breathtaking statistic about this.
What is that?
Those scholars used the Greek word aletheia to translate the Hebrew word emet 87 times.
87 times.
Yeah.
I am trying to wrap my mind around the sheer friction of that translation.
It is wild to think about.
You have these translators sitting in a room staring at a Hebrew scroll that talks about emet.
Solid, weight-bearing reliability.
Right. And they have to find a Greek word to convey that to an audience steeped in Plato.
An audience steeped in Homer.
And they chose aletheia, the unconcealing of reality.
They forcefully merged two entirely distinct worldviews into a single word.
It feels like a theological earthquake.
It really was. By mapping aletheia onto emet, they created a new theological vocabulary.
One that altered the course of human history.
Let us analyze how emet actually functions within the Old Testament narrative.
Yes, let's look at the sources, because it is intensely, almost brutally practical.
The lexicons provide several specific Old Testament examples that demonstrate this.
Right. Like in Genesis 24, we see the story of Abraham sending his servant to find a wife for his son Isaac.
Yes, the servant travels a long distance.
He finds Rebekah, and then he bows down and blesses the Lord.
And in verse 48, he praises God for leading him in a true path.
Now, what does a true path mean in that context?
It certainly doesn't mean a path that is philosophically coherent.
No, or intellectually unconcealed.
Right. A true path is a road that actually gets you to your destination.
It is a reliable road.
It didn't wash out in the rain.
It didn't lead him to a dead end.
The truth of the path is found in its structural reliability.
We see the exact same linguistic function in the prophets.
We do. Isaiah 10.20 discusses the remnant of Israel.
The survivors of a massive judgment.
The text says that this remnant will no longer lean on the one who struck them.
But they will rely on the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth.
Relying on the Lord in truth.
So, again, that doesn't mean having accurate historical facts about God in your head.
No, not at all.
What does it mean?
Leaning on God in truth means leaning your actual physical and spiritual weight on his reliability.
It means treating him as the solid floor joist.
Yes, you aren't just acknowledging his existence.
You are trusting his structural integrity when the entire world collapses around you.
This inevitably forces us to look at the character of God himself.
Because in the Hebrew mindset, truth is never an abstract mathematical equation floating out in the ether.
No, it is tethered directly to the person and the actions of Yahweh.
That is the anchor of the entire Old Testament.
Look at Exodus 34.6.
Right. God passes before Moses and declares his own name and character.
He describes himself as abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, or truth.
Amen.
Yes. Then look at Psalm 132.11, which states that the Lord swore an oath in truth to David.
So Yahweh is defined as the God of truth.
Because his actions are completely, unfailingly coherent.
That cohesion is the crux of the matter.
It is. God does not lie.
And not just because lying breaks a moral rule.
Right. It is because a lie is an internal contradiction.
A lie means your words are disconnected from reality.
But God's words create reality.
Yes. What he says and the actual events that unfold in history coincide perfectly.
There is zero gap between his decree and the outcome.
His promises never fracture under pressure.
Therefore, his character is the absolute definition of emet.
Because God's truth is defined by his actions, the Hebrew concept demands action from humans as well.
It demands an active response.
I am looking at a specific phrase highlighted in the theological dictionaries from Nehemiah 9.33.
Yes.
The Israelites are confessing their sins, and they say to God, "You have been righteous in all that has come upon us, for you have dealt faithfully."
But look at the literal Hebrew phrasing there.
It says, "You have done the truth."
God did the truth.
That phrasing is essential.
It completely obliterates the modern idea that truth is just a cognitive state.
Right. You cannot just think the truth.
You have to do the truth.
If a builder tells me a house is structurally sound, but refuses to stand inside it during a storm,
then he isn't doing the truth.
Exactly. Doing the truth requires an uprightness of heart.
It means your actions, your hands, and your feet align completely with the reliable reality of God.
You live out the truth in how you treat your neighbor.
How you conduct your business.
And how you worship.
And that active, physically lived-out view of truth became the central pillar of Rabbinic Judaism.
The rabbis took this concept of emet and built an entire legal framework around it.
The courtroom is the ultimate testing ground for this idea.
Right. In the judicial system of ancient Israel, you can't afford to deal in philosophical abstraction.
No, you need solid, reliable facts.
Because lives are literally on the line.
The lexicon spends significant time analyzing how emet functions in Jewish legal proceedings.
Deuteronomy 22 is a great example.
Yes, it outlines laws concerning sexual immorality and accusations made against a bride.
Verse 20 lays out a scenario where an accusation is made.
And the text says, if the thing is truth.
In a judicial setting, truth means authentic facts that have been proven by rigorous inquiry.
It is not an assumption.
It is an established, undeniable event.
So the judges in these ancient courts were tasked with finding the emet.
They had to test the floorboards of the testimonies.
But it goes much deeper than standard civic justice.
How so?
Well, in the rabbinic mindset, the execution of law was a sacred religious function.
Okay.
The judges were not just civil servants keeping the peace.
They were acting as representatives of the ultimate judge, Yahweh.
Right. And there is a fascinating passage from the rabbinic literature on this.
Oh, I read this. The rabbis taught that when a human judge reaches a true verdict,
A verdict based entirely on emet.
right, that judge actually causes the divine presence, the Shekinah, to dwell in the midst of Israel.
Think about the theological weight of that claim.
The presence of God is drawn to the earth by the accurate execution of justice.
Truth is the very basis of legal judgment because it perfectly reflects the unshakable character of God.
A false verdict repels God.
A true verdict invites him in.
That puts an immense, terrifying burden on the concept of honesty.
It really does. The dictionaries pull a specific legend from the 4th century.
Attributed to a prominent Babylonian rabbi named Rabbah.
Yes, and this quote stopped me in my tracks.
Rabbah taught that a man who alters his word
A man who tells a lie?
is likened to an idolater.
That is a staggering theological equation.
To tell a lie is to practice idolatry. Walk me through the logic of that. Why would a rabbi equate telling a falsehood with bowing down to a carved wooden statue of Baal?
Because idolatry, at its core, is the substitution of a false reality for the true God.
You are looking at a block of wood and saying, this is the ultimate reality.
Right, and when you tell a lie, you are doing the exact same thing.
You're creating a false
A
reality
phantom universe.
and trying to force other people to live inside it.
You are usurping God's role as the author of reality.
Therefore, altering your word is an act of supreme theological rebellion.
You are building a house with rotten floor joists and telling people it is safe.
Yes. And the rabbis developed a beautiful, highly symbolic concept to illustrate this.
They talked about the concept of God's seal.
Right, God's seal.
In the ancient world, a human king would authenticate royal decree by pressing his signet ring into hot wax.
That seal guaranteed the authenticity of the document.
The rabbis declared that God's royal seal is emet.
His signature is truth.
Yes. And they left to point out the specific spelling of the word emet in the Hebrew alphabet to prove their point.
Break that spelling down for us.
The word is spelled with 3 letters, aleph, mem, and tav.
Okay.
Aleph is the very first letter of the Hebrew alphabet,
Mem is the exact middle letter.
and tav is the final letter.
So the word itself spans the entire alphabet.
It encompasses everything from the absolute beginning to the final end.
Truth leaves no gaps.
Furthermore, rabbinic scholars use those 3 specific letters as an acrostic.
To form the phrase, God lives an everlasting king.
That is brilliant.
It really is. So when you are dealing with truth, whether you are testifying in a courtroom, signing a business contract, or making a promise to your child,
You are handling the royal signature of the living king.
you are not just following an arbitrary moral code.
You are honoring the seal of the universe's sovereign.
That gives such crushing weight to the idea of integrity.
It grounds truth entirely in the concrete character of God and the dirt of human interaction. But while the Jewish world was obsessing over courts and firm floorboards,
The broader Mediterranean world was dragging the concept of truth in a highly mystical direction.
an almost anti-physical direction.
This is where we run into a major historical shift.
We have to look at Alexandria in Egypt during the 1st century,
Alexandria was an intellectual powerhouse.
a melting pot of different cultures.
And right in the middle of it was a brilliant Jewish philosopher named Philo.
Yes, Philo of Alexandria, he lived right around the same time as Jesus.
And he had a very specific, ambitious project.
He wanted to synthesize his Hebrew religion with Greek philosophy.
Specifically, the ideas of Plato.
Philo was a master of synthesis.
He looked at the Hebrew Old Testament, but he read it through the lens of Hellenistic dualism.
Hellenistic dualism. That is the philosophical belief that reality is split into two distinct, opposing realms.
The physical realm and the spiritual realm.
For Philo and the Hellenistic thinkers, the physical realm, the dirt, the flesh, the wood, the stone,
It was inherently inferior, corruptible, and decaying.
but the spiritual realm was eternal, perfect, and pure.
So how did Philo handle the concept of aletheia?
For Philo, aletheia became entirely synonymous with the divine, eternal, incorruptible reality.
The earthly world, the physical stuff you touch and feel, was viewed as a mere shadow.
A degraded copy or even an illusion.
Philo argued that the true human is the invisible spirit.
And the physical body is just a corruptible prison cell holding the spirit hostage.
I was trying to conceptualize this Hellenistic dualism, and I thought about video streaming.
Oh, that is a good analogy. Let's hear it.
Imagine you are trying to watch a live sports game on your phone, but your cellular connection is terrible.
Okay, I know that feeling well.
The video drops to a blurry, pixelated 144p resolution.
You can barely distinguish the players.
Right. Everything is glitchy and distorted.
Yeah.
In Philo's mind, that 144p stream is the physical earth.
It is a degraded, low-quality representation.
But heaven, the divine reality, is like being at the stadium in person.
Sitting in the front row, seeing the players in high-definition reality.
Yes. For Philo, aletheia is the live, in-person event.
You have to escape the pixelated stream to find the truth.
That analogy captures the essence of Middle Platonism flawlessly.
The physical world is just low-resolution pixels.
Philo wrote a staggering line about this. He said, "There is no light for actions more brilliant than the truth."
He viewed truth as the unadorned, naked reality of the divine.
You strip away the physical body to find the blazing light.
And the sources show that this idea rapidly mutated into something even more extreme in the surrounding culture.
It certainly did, if you look at Gnostic texts from that era.
Such as the writings in the Corpus Hermeticum.
Right. Truth is no longer just a concept there. It is literally a divine substance.
In these mystical writings, truth is viewed as an emanation from God.
A physical, mystical power that swoops down into the dark, filthy, physical world.
To rescue the divine spark trapped inside the human soul.
Truth brings life and light, pulling the spirit out of the mud.
I am looking at this historical landscape, and it seems like an impossible situation for the first-century Christians.
It really does.
You have the Hebrew view on one side.
Truth is solid, reliable action based on God's law, heavily tied to the physical world and human courts.
On the other side, you have this massive Greek Hellenistic view.
Truth is a mystical, heavenly reality that wants to escape the physical dirt of the earth.
How could a first-century Christian possibly reconcile these two opposing views without their theology tearing at the seams?
Did they adopt the Greek philosophical view?
Or did they stick to the Hebrew legal view?
Well, they did something unprecedented.
The writers of the New Testament, particularly the Apostle Paul, radically integrated both of these massive concepts.
And forged them into something entirely unique. The gospel.
Let's dig into Paul's letters.
Yes. When you read the Apostle Paul, he takes this Greek word aletheia and weaponizes it.
He gives it the meaning of the valid norm.
It becomes the absolute correct knowledge of reality, but he focuses it entirely on the Christian revelation.
Truth is no longer an abstract philosophical idea.
It is a specific message.
A crucial text from our lexicons for understanding Paul's theology of truth is the opening chapter of his letter to the Romans.
Romans 1.1.
Yes. Paul acts as a diagnostician here, outlining the fundamental disease of the human race.
He writes that the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men.
Men who, by their unrighteousness, hold the truth captive.
Or, depending on your translation, they suppress the truth.
The imagery there is incredibly violent.
Holding the truth captive, suppressing it.
It paints a picture of a man kidnapping reality itself, tying it to a chair, and locking it in a dark basement.
It connects directly back to both the Greek and Hebrew ideas.
Paul is arguing that the reality of God, his invisible attributes and eternal power, is entirely obvious in creation.
The aletheia is there. The curtain's been pulled back.
God has unconcealed himself through the things that have been made.
But if the curtain is open, why doesn't everyone see the truth?
Because, according to Paul, human depravity actively refuses to accept it.
Humans do not want a reliable, weight-bearing floor to stand on if it means they have to obey the architect.
So they gag the revelation of God.
They shackle it through their sin.
They actively suppress the obvious reality of God because they despise the idea of submitting to his authority.
They trade the high-definition truth for a pixelated lie.
We see Paul fighting a brutal war against this suppression throughout his entire ministry.
Look at his letter to the Galatians.
In chapter 2, Paul describes a massive public conflict he had with the apostle Peter in the city of Antioch.
Peter had been eating meals with Gentile Christians, which was a huge cultural shift.
But when some Jewish men arrived from Jerusalem, Peter got scared.
He pulled back, refusing to eat with the Gentiles anymore.
It was a moment of intense sociological and theological pressure.
Paul stood up in front of the entire church and confronted Peter to his face.
And the phrasing Paul uses is critical.
In Galatians 2.5 and 2.14, he says he fought this battle so that the truth of the gospel might remain with them.
He publicly rebuked Peter because Peter and the others were not walking straight according to the truth of the gospel.
Notice what Paul is doing there.
He is not treating the truth as a mystical vapor in the clouds.
No, he treats it like a concrete road.
Truth for Paul is a path you have to walk straight on.
If Peter pulls away from the Gentiles, he is veering off the road into the ditch.
The truth of the gospel, that all are justified by faith, not by ethnic dietary laws, admits absolutely no distortion.
You cannot bend the truth to fit your social preferences.
Or alleviate your fear of peer pressure.
The truth demands behavioral compliance.
This objective reality demands absolute, unyielding integrity from anyone who claims to preach it.
Look at 2 Corinthians 4.2.
Paul is defending his ministry against false teachers who have infiltrated the church in Corinth.
He creates a sharp contrast between his methods and theirs.
He states that he has renounced disgraceful, underhanded ways.
He refuses to practice cunning or to tamper with God's word.
Instead, he says he commends himself to everyone's conscience by the manifesting of the truth.
The manifesting of the truth. That specific phrase loops us right back to the original Greek etymology of the alpha privative.
Manifesting means unconcealing.
But the profound difference is what Paul is unveiling.
He is not unveiling a hidden philosophical concept accessible only to an elite group of thinkers.
No, the truth he is manifesting is an open, objective, historical reality.
The incarnation, life, death, and physical resurrection of Jesus Christ.
That historical event is the Alētheia.
It is an unconcealed fact that demands immediate submission from every human being on earth.
Paul takes the solid, weight-bearing reliability of the Hebrew emet.
And he fuses it with the visible, unconcealed reality of the Greek aletheia.
He locks both of these massive concepts onto the historical event of the gospel.
The cross and the empty tomb are the ultimate reliable reality.
Paul establishes the truth as the unshakable reality of the gospel message.
But then, decades later, the Apostle John writes his gospel.
And he takes this concept one step further.
John identifies the truth not just as a historical message, but as a living, breathing person.
This is often referred to as the Johannine Revolution.
It is the absolute climax of the New Testament vocabulary.
When you read the Gospel of John and his 3 epistles, aletheia ceases to be a generic philosophical term.
It becomes a distinctively Christian vocabulary of revelation.
It dominates his writing. Let's trace this through John's Gospel.
Right out of the gate, in the very first chapter, John drops a theological bomb.
In the prologue, he talks about the Word, the eternal Logos, becoming flesh.
John 1.14 says that the Word dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory.
Glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth.
In John's theological framework, truth is the absolute reality of God, completely distinct from human existence that has been distorted and corrupted by sin.
Yet, John shatters the Hellenistic dualism.
He says this divine truth is not a philosophical proposition you contemplate in a library.
The truth took on human flesh. It had fingernails and hair.
It walked around in first-century Judea.
That is the most shocking claim in the entire biblical text.
John 14.6 is the prime example.
Jesus is in the upper room with his disciples just hours before his crucifixion.
The disciples are confused and terrified.
Jesus looks at them and says, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Notice the syntax there.
He does not say, I'm going to teach you some true facts about God.
He does not say, I have the truth written down in a scroll.
He says, I am the truth.
He is claiming to be the exclusive instrument of truth originating from God.
He embodies the entire unconcealed reality of God in a physical human body.
Pilate, the Roman governor, famously asks Jesus, what is truth?
Pilate is the cynical modern man viewing truth as a political tool or an unsolvable philosophical puzzle.
And the tragic irony is that truth, incarnate in human flesh, was standing right in front of him.
Bleeding on the pavement.
Because Jesus is the truth incarnate. Encountering him does something radical to a person.
Look at John chapter 8. Jesus is debating with the religious leaders.
And in verse 32, he makes a statement that is carved onto university buildings all over the world.
He says, "If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free."
That phrase is quoted constantly, but almost always stripped of its context.
Right. When people say, "the truth will set you free today," they usually mean it in a purely academic or psychological sense.
If you learn the facts about a political conspiracy, you won't be ignorant anymore, so you are free.
Or if you confess a lie you've been hiding, you will feel a wave of psychological relief.
But looking at the sources, that is not what Jesus is talking about at all.
No, the reality Jesus is discussing is far more severe.
He is not talking about the freedom of the human intellect from academic ignorance.
He is talking about the knowledge of divine revelation freeing a person from spiritual slavery.
The context of John 8 is brutal.
Jesus explicitly states that everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin.
He identifies the devil as a murderer from the beginning who has nothing to do with the truth.
Because there is no truth in him. When the devil lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies.
Humanity is held hostage by the father of lies.
They are chained to a false reality.
The only way to break that chain, the only way to be liberated from the enslavement of sin, is to know the truth.
And knowing the truth means entering into a saving relational union with Jesus Christ.
The truth is not a set of data points. It is a person who kicks the door of the prison cell open and pulls the captive out.
And once that person pulls you out of the cell, your behavior has to change.
We see the Hebrew concept of doing the truth roaring back to life in John's first epistle.
In 1 John 1.6, he writes, "If we say we have fellowship with him while we walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth."
It is an active, demanding way of life.
You cannot claim to know the incarnate truth while walking in the dark.
To fully comprehend how a believer can actually practice the truth, we must look at John's theology of the Holy Spirit.
Human beings cannot grasp or live out this reality on their own.
In John 16.13, Jesus gives a critical promise.
He says he is going to send the Helper.
And he explicitly titles this helper the Spirit of Truth.
Jesus states, "When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all the truth."
So the Holy Spirit functions as an infallible guide.
Yes. The theological dictionaries highlight a crucial parameter here.
The Spirit of Truth does not invent new concepts.
The Spirit does not bring a second, separate revelation that contradicts Jesus.
The Spirit's role is to take the objective, historical reality of Christ, the exact things Jesus taught and accomplished, and illuminate them for the believer.
The Spirit takes the truth made flesh and forcefully applies him to the human heart,
granting the believer the capacity to actually walk in the light.
This theology is overwhelmingly dense. To fully appreciate the precision of John's language, the lexicons urge us to look closely at the specific adjectives John uses.
Greek has several cognate words derived from the same root related to aletheia.
Distinguishing between these specific adjectives unlocks a massive amount of the New Testament text.
We need to examine the difference between the adjective aletheis and the adjective alothenos,
as well as the verb form alotheis.
Let's start with alotheis.
The lexicons indicate that this word generally means factually correct or honest.
It is the straightforward idea of telling the truth, of your words matching the facts.
A perfect example is found in John chapter 4.
Jesus is talking to the Samaritan woman at the well.
He tells her to go call her husband. She replies, "I have no husband."
Jesus then reveals his supernatural knowledge by saying, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true."
The Greek word there is aletheia. She stated a factually correct piece of information. She didn't lie.
But then you encounter the other adjective, alethinos.
This word carries a much heavier, more aggressive theological payload.
Alethinos goes beyond mere factual accuracy. It means authentic, genuine, or perfect.
It describes the absolute ideal model of a thing.
Everything else in existence is just a pale, degraded copy of the alethinos.
To illustrate this, the linguistic sources pull a fascinating example from the ancient papyri.
Everyday documents recovered from trash heaps in the Greek-speaking world, like Oxyrhynchus in Egypt.
But archaeologists found a document that refers to true Egyptians, noting that they are easily recognizable by their specific speech patterns.
The word used in the papyrus is alethinos.
It doesn't mean that people aren't hallucinations. It means they are the genuine article.
They are authentic Egyptians as opposed to foreigners or imposters.
John takes that specific, heavy word, alethinos, and aims it directly at Jesus to make staggering theological claims.
In John 1.9, talking about the arrival of Jesus, it says, "The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world."
The word is alethinos. John is not just arguing that Jesus isn't a fake light.
He is arguing that Jesus is the perfect ideal model of light.
He is the authentic divine reality.
Every other light, the sun, the stars, human philosophy, the law of Moses, is just a derivative shadow compared to the blazing, authentic reality of Christ.
We see it again in John 15.1. Jesus is walking with his disciples.
And he says, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser."
He uses alethinos. He is deliberately contrasting himself with the nation of Israel.
Throughout the Old Testament, Israel was frequently depicted as God's vine.
God planted Israel to bear fruit, but time and time again the vine became corrupt and yielded wild, bitter grapes.
Jesus stands up and says, "I am the alethinos vine."
I am the genuine, perfect, authentic reality of what a vine was always supposed to be.
Compared to him, all earthly vines are failures.
This is where John brilliantly interacts with and subverts the Hellenistic dualism we discussed with Philo.
Philo claimed that the physical earth is a pixelated shadow, and the invisible heaven is the reality.
John says you are half right. The earthly things are shadows.
But the authentic heavenly reality has actually stepped down into the mud of the earth.
The alethinos light is physically shining in the darkness of human history.
The divine reality took on a human body.
The implications of that are staggering. It raises an intensely practical question for anyone reading these texts.
If Jesus is the alethinos, the ultimate authentic divine reality, how does that apply to the believer?
We cannot be the authentic divine reality. We are flawed, sinful humans.
So how do we interact with this truth?
What does the verb form of this word, aletheu, demand of our daily lives?
We find the clearest answer to that in Paul's letter to the Ephesians.
In Ephesians 4.45, Paul is instructing the church on how to grow into maturity.
He tells them there to be speaking the truth in love.
The verb there is aletheu.
Speaking the truth. People use that verse all the time as an excuse to be harsh, as long as they maintain a calm tone of voice.
Yes, but the lexicons point out that aletheush means vastly more than just verbalizing accurate facts with a polite disposition.
Translating it simply as speaking the truth is almost too weak.
It encompasses your entire orientation to reality.
It means remaining fiercely attached to the truth of the gospel.
It means holding fast to the historical reality of Christ and aggressively conforming your entire conduct, your thoughts, and your behavior to it.
It demands that you live out the reality of Christ in every single interaction.
You alothetheu when you forgive an enemy.
When you refuse to lie on a tax return.
And when you confess your sins.
It is the Hebrew concept of doing the truth, wedded to the Greek concept of unveiled reality, all wrapped up and secured by the love of Christ.
It is the ultimate biblical synthesis of an incredibly complex idea.
We have covered a massive amount of historical and theological ground today.
We really have. We started with the classical Greek idea of aletheia, the concept of pulling back the heavy curtain to unveil reality.
We moved to the dirt of the Old Testament, where emet means firm, tested, weight-bearing reliability.
Anchored in the very character of a God whose promises never fail.
We examined how Rabbinic Judaism treated truth as the seal of the living king in the courtroom.
And how Philo of Alexandria saw it as the blinding light of heavenly reality escaping the physical world.
And then we witnessed how the Apostle Paul took all of those disparate threads and locked them onto the objective, historical element of the gospel message.
A truth that violently confronts human suppression and demands our submission.
Culminating in John's stunning presentation of truth. Not as an abstract concept, not as a mathematical equation, but as a living person.
The incarnate Jesus Christ, full of grace and truth, the authentic alethinos reality who shatters the chains of sin and sets the captives free.
It is a breathtaking historical and theological progression. It redefines the parameters of human existence.
And it is intensely applicable to you right now. Think about the cultural landscape you walk through every single day.
We do not have to succumb to the modern fracture of reality.
We do not have to choose between truth as a cold, hard list of scientific facts on one side, and truth as a squishy, highly subjective feeling of personal authenticity on the other.
The biblical synthesis we have analyzed today proves that real truth is objective.
It is structurally firm.
It demands concrete action from you.
And in the end, it is entirely relational. It is found in a person.
In a culture that constantly urges you to speak your truth or find your truth, you must wrestle with a terrifying, glorious alternative.
What happens when you realize that truth is not something you possess?
It is not a feeling you create.
It is a firm, external, historical reality that possesses you.
What if truth is not a political or academic argument to be won, but an eternal, living reality to be obeyed?
That is the thought you need to carry with you. Thank you for joining us as we work through this incredible material.
It has been a phenomenal look at a single life-altering word.
We will see you next time on Reformed Thinking.